So let's just get started. I think all of us are pretty familiar with Ralph and his past, but I just want to give a brief overview. Ralph was first elected as a town councilor in North Providence, and then became mayor of North Providence,
Yes.
and then moved on to run for and win the Secretary of State's office, and is currently running for lieutenant governor. So I'd like to start us off with our first question, which is in some ways one of our most important questions. And that relates to the 2006 move to slash income taxes for the wealthiest Rhode Islanders. I'm wondering if you supported that move at the time, and if you would support repealing it now, returning the top rate back to 9.9%.
I did not support that. I believe I did not answer the question as far as what I support immediate repeal. I hope I left it blank.
Yes.
Good, but then I give an explanation. It's a tough yes or no answer question, I'll let you know why, but I did not support that. And I'm from a working class family, and I'm sure you're going to hear that a lot from a lot of people I hope. Working class family, middle class family, and I have always felt that we need to look to, at times, the wealthiest of Rhode Islanders to support the needs of those who need our services. We're going to pay for them one way or the other, whether it's education, whether it's health care. When someone needs services, we're going to have to pay for them. So I always look towards the wealthiest to pay for the middle class and those who are on the lower tier of income when it comes to Rhode Island. The reason why I didn't answer yes to that is because I didn't want to tie myself, and I've had that question on a few surveys, I didn't want to tie myself into that being the solution, is just to repeal it. And I think that I personally have been campaigning on a complete restructure of our tax system. Not only do we need to repeal the 2006 Act and find a way to look to the wealthiest to fund the services that our middle class and those lower in income need, but I think we also need to look at some of our more regressive taxes, things that aren't as flashy and as eye-catching and as newsworthy, such as motor vehicle tax and property tax. When you talk to people across the country, and I serve with a lot of different secretaries of state, while income tax, of course, is a driving factor, we have some of the highest property taxes. We are one of the few states with a motor vehicle tax, and that hurts those who are struggling to make ends meet. And again, you're going to hear this a lot during this interview, but I mean it with sincerity, is that a lot of these issues that we're talking about, I've had the challenge of living. I've had the challenge of knowing what it's like to work 3 jobs to make ends meet. I have a son, my three children all work in the private sector. One boy gets up at 3 in the morning and starts his shipping job from 4 to 9, then runs his business from 9 to 5, and then works at a restaurant from 5 to midnight. My oldest son is an EMTC. He also has a side job in a business. His wife has 2 jobs. They have 2 children. Tough to make ends meet. My daughter is a single parent who fortunately has a great support system and lives with me. But she works full-time, cares for developmentally disabled adults, and my 5-year-old granddaughter lives with us, which is great. But I know what it's like for those challenges, and so how can she move on and actually make ends meet on a single salary? How can my son not have to work from 4 in the morning to midnight? So, and the way to do that is we need to make it more affordable for that generation, for those individuals. So I'm definitely on the same page, I believe, with all of you on that question, but I didn't want to tie myself into that being the lone solution.
Okay. So do we have any other follow-up questions on this?
Oh,
yeah. On this? Yeah, so Randall.
Yeah. So one thing I didn't follow in your response, you said that you wanted to maybe increase some of the more progressive taxes, like the income tax on the top tax brackets, but you weren't going to commit to it because you had to see exactly what to do about reducing the more regressive taxes. And that part didn't totally make sense to me because which particular regressive tax you reduce or whether you reduce them at all doesn't really affect your ability to increase the more progressive taxes. So so I was just wondering, are you willing to commit to any kind of increase in the top bracket of income tax?
Yes, and I apologize if the answer didn't answer the question directly.
Mm-hmm.
I will commit publicly to look at our 2006 law and realize that we need to change it to increase the tax on the upper bracket in order to reduce the tax on the middle class and lower income. Mm-hmm. What I was saying is that I'm not saying the solution is just to roll it back to 2006 numbers.
Okay.
I think that we need to take a good look at it and maybe make it even more aggressive, whatever it may be. But so I'm saying that's not my lone answer. I don't think that's I don't want to restrict myself to that one repeal of that law. But yes, I am committed to ensuring that the top bracket does pay more than it's paying right now.
Okay, thanks.
So Lisa.
Hi, I wanted to say that I have problems with this question, period, because in the last 25 years, the tax bracket, and in the last 25 years, we've gone from essentially a healthy
Progressive taxes.
economy to an unhealthy economy. And one of the problems was that 25 years ago, the tax bracket of the upper was not 9.9, it was 13.9. And so, in fact, the upper 2% have seen their taxes drop over 60%, whereas everybody else has made money. So I think that yes, the people need to look at it overall and to see what, as the top 2% has raised their income astronomically, not 60% more. We need to see. I don't like folding it to 2006.
And that's why I didn't want to answer yes to that, because I didn't want to tie myself
Right,
into
exactly.
that particular
Very
review.
limited
Yes.
question. So the first person who said that they wanted to look at it even
More
possibly
global.
higher. May I ask a question that doesn't have to do with the taxes?
Absolutely.
I have been very vociferous in my my displeasure and horror at the voter ID law. As far I lived in Canada for 9 years. The Canadians go into the prisons to recruit voters because they believe that democracy is an open process. Then, after having talked in front of the Senate and Judiciary Committee and our House, I would like to hear. I know what you've said.
Yes.
I don't agree with it, obviously. I don't agree with you going into the other attorney generals, offices and recruiting other Democratic governors, and to bring in this kind of restrictive voting. Don't you believe that Americans have to have an open process?
And so I'm going to answer that. The next to last question first.
Okay.
I believe in our law. I'll explain why. I've never lobbied another governor or Secretary of State to implement our law.
Oh, I heard.
Oh, never. No, never. But I will say that, so it may be a little lengthy, and I'll do the best I can to give you the Reader's Digest version.
It's an important question.
But I can tell you that there's probably not a voter ID law in the country right now, other than Rhode Island, that I wouldn't aggressively speak against. They are disenfranchising voters. We all know what the meaning is behind it. It's obvious. They're trying to increase the Republican base and lower the Democratic base, and that's a fact. It's not political. That's what they're trying to do. At the same time, I take the right to vote and the ability to vote at its highest level. People have lost their lives for it. And I think it's just so easy for someone to walk in, and I'm going to explain our law in a minute, someone to walk in, and it's happened more than once. We have people testify.
You have people testifying, excuse me, you have people testifying and no one has ever been prosecuted for it? Let me just ask you this. What percentage of the voter population does that tiny fraction of infringement?
I'll make it even tinier. If one person walks in on election day and they say, I'm sorry, you can't vote, somebody already did it under your name, that's one too many. So.
And I say that if 50
But that's where we're going to disagree.
voters,
That's where we're going to disagree. So I'll give you a fact on voter ID. The law that we have introduced is the most liberal law in the nation. And what I mean by
it's a right-wing law.
No, it's not, because the Rhode Island law, and let me explain the law. The Rhode Island law is, and I know you're obviously very emotional on it, and I like that. But if I could explain the law, I think you'd feel a little better, and that is that we have a provisional ballot requirement that no one gets turned away. And I'm going to give two amazing facts. Number one is,
So are you
What-
saying that that's unique, that other states
oh,
don't have?
we're the
that?
only state that has that.
What
So
about Arizona?
I believe, well, as of the passing of our law, Rhode Island had the only law where if you cannot be turned away, you have a provisional ballot. Maybe Arizona has it since then. I don't know.
Arizona.
But there's a 50% chance that those provisional ballots.
550,000 ballots were cast in 2012, and not one person lost their vote because of voter ID.
I
550.
disagree with you.
So I was, Ed what?
I was going to disagree with that, but this is just gonna take us.
No, that's
to
fair.
time.
That's fair. If you know someone who did, because we have none.
I was canvassing on election day in North Providence, in fact. And I ran across a woman who was turned away. I called my wife, who was on the ACLU board. And when I left that house half an hour later, my wife was still talking to her. The ACLU was against this law as well.
I know that.
And my wife was trying to get her into,
But how was she turned away?
she was turned away.
Lots of-
They never
No, but they have no
said,
legal right to turn them away.
you're right, they were incorrect in doing it, but they turned her away. She didn't know she had the right to a provisional ballot, and she had no way to get back to the polling station.
That's why I introduced provisional ballot, because of the person who goes there and doesn't have an ID on them, they shouldn't have to return it.
So
They shouldn't have to,
Yes.
but
It happened.
they sent her away, they said,
Happens
we
lots of
can't do it. They didn't know to say you can cast a provisional ballot, they made a mistake, and she had no way to get back.
So I want to follow up on something you said earlier, which is that you said you have no instances of a vote being denied because of voter ID, or was that no instances of people being denied provisional ballots?
We have, what happens is when we get a list of the numbers of people who got provisional ballots. And then we get the number of people who were ballots were counted, and the number of people ballots weren't counted, and then you have to explain why. So I may have, let's say I go there and they say you're not registered, and I get a provisional ballot, and want to prove that I'm registered. Okay, he's not registered, he lied, so that provisional ballot's not counted. And of all the provisional ballots that were turned away, that ballots that did not get counted, not one was a result of the signature didn't match / they didn't have an ID. Not one of them. 550,000 ballots cast. I pulled all city and county.
So what you're not saying is that you didn't have any reports of people being turned away for lack of an ID.
Well, we don't have reports of that. We only have the numbers of the ballots. So if someone got turned away improperly by a poll worker, no, we don't. There's no way to know that.
So what if people reported that to the Secretary of State's office?
That we would have to. The Board of Elections trains poll workers. Regretfully, I wish my office did. My office does not, it's the Board of Elections, but we would be all over the
So-
Board of Elections as they're trained in poll workers.
So you're saying you've never received a complaint
No, not one.
to the to the Secretary of State's office of someone being turned away?
Not one.
What about mine?
$550,000.
The one that I submitted to the Secretary of State's office.
If you submit it to us, I can get all.
I have an email. I will forward you the email.
Please do.
It wasn't directly to you, I believe it was, I'm gonna say, was it Chris Barnett, someone.
That's that using my spokesperson for the office.
Yeah, so I submitted directly to him a record of people being turned away.
And you have the whole user.
Yeah, I emailed it, because I was a
That's
poll
amazing.
checker and I watched that, so I
I will
submitted.
try to find.
At that point then, and again, at that point you have to criticize the poll workers and the implementation and not the law itself. The law is flawless.
The law is, the point is this, okay, let me ask you another question. Okay, and I hate to take this up, but it has to do with money as well. Okay, so how much do you say that the voter ID law has cost Rhode Island?
I don't have the exact number, but the number was, they budgeted us $75,000 and was well under that.
Okay,
It was
I
ridiculous.
called the Board of Electors a number of months ago and asked, and this young man was very, very specific. He said it was $108,000, of which 20,000, and maybe 28 or 20,000 went to computers, and the rest went to advertising. Now, as treasurer, what could you have helped to do with $108,000 of Rhode Island's, in Rhode Island's budget? Given the fact that there were no, the law had been When I talk, yes, okay, so I went and I took my students to City Hall, they registered. They were so proud of the fact that they registered. Okay, so I had never ever had to register, ever had to do anything once I registered. My students never had to do anything because we, in this country, supposedly before 2001, believed that people were innocent until they were proven guilty, and that this was an open process. So I know that we have to stop this line of inquiry, but this is absolutely fundamental. And my belief is, whether it's right or wrong, is that the fact that ALEC brought laws that you may have rewritten so that they weren't so bad into existence to do something totally different, that you took that virus and you brought it into Rhode Island, and you disenfranchised elderly people who just don't go to vote because they can't do that, and all of these poor people who don't, and
we are out there. We're out there at senior centers, at high rises, at homeless shelters, giving people IDs, and they're feeling empowered to go vote. I strongly disagree.
But they didn't have
Strongly disagree.
All right,
So
that's
we
fine.
understand
I-
that
I-
there's a
I-
discussion, but I think Nancy has a question, and then Eric has a question.
For the question, do you support a woman's right to make her own healthcare decisions
Yes.
and her right to access to contraception and abortion?
Yes.
It said, your answer was, I have stated that this question cannot be answered by 2 words separated by a dash. This position most likely puts me in the pro-choice category, although I would like the opportunity to elaborate, not to mislead anyone. So I would like you to elaborate today what.
Absolutely. I can tell you what my position is, and you can tell me exactly where I fall. Because if you asked me this I'm going to be very open. If you asked me this when I ran for Secretary of State in 2006, I would probably have mistakenly answered pro-life. Because I personally feel that I am pro-life. 6 years ago, I was confronted with a situation. Someone extremely, extremely close to me, at a young age, teenager, got pregnant. And she asked me to talk to me. So again, someone very close to me. And I explained to her how I believe in pro-life, how I believe it's a living thing, how I've had 3 children, and I can go on and on and on, and how there's adoption procedures, and I understand you have a support system, and people will be there for you, and I went on and on and on, and when my dialogue was done, because she asked my opinion, I said, should you choose to go that route, I will support you all the way there, I will comfort you through that, and I will be there when you leave to comfort you through the entire thing. She ended up not getting the abortion. She ended up having a child. That's neither here nor there. My point is that, where would you put me in that category? Am I pro-life? Am I pro-choice?
I would put you pro-life,
Okay.
not pro-choice.
Okay. But I respected her choice. I told her I respect your choice. That I'm personally pro-life,
Yeah.
but should you choose not to agree with me and proceed with the abortion, I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to support you. I'm going to comfort you. I respect your choice.
I know.
So I guess you have to
Most
decide.
people are not there to support
Okay.
a
Then while I would not, I
baby.
don't know if I would agree with your analysis, but I respect that analysis. So on your particular survey, you would have to check pro-choice, not pro-life.
No, pro-choice.
Oh, I thought you said pro-life. You did say pro-life.
I'm pro-choice,
No,
you're
for-
pro-life.
Right, so you'd have to check that I answer pro-life.
So Eric has a follow-up question.
Sure.
Mr. Secretary, I think you're a nice guy.
Thank you.
I can tell that you believe in what you said. Present yourself nice. We clearly disagree on so many things, and I'm sort of confused why you want our endorsement. We are the Rhode Island Progressive Democrats of America. We believe that a woman's right to choose is a fundamental right. We believe that we should legalize, tax, and regulate marijuana, and are in full support of Representative Jello's bill. And, excuse me, and while I see you answer some of your questions, in line with us, the voter ID thing, not to get back into the big discussion, is like the bedrock of our organization. In fact, the majority of us went to the State House to testify against it, including the 2 candidates for Secretary of State, one of whom got the Democratic Party's nomination, who are so against that law.
Three of us in this
You
room.
don't have a record as a legislator, so we don't have anything to hold you accountable to, other than what you said and what you've done as Secretary of State. So if you could just tell us
Absolutely.
why you're here.
I'm here for two reasons. And I think, and I really respect that. I respect the way you walked into that, because I also feel the same way about you. When people are passionate about what they believe in, even though you may disagree, there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm here for two reasons. Reason number one is that what you just stated, you obviously have a very good history of my positions. I think we agree more than you think we do, but there are some fundamental positions, such as voter ID, that we do disagree with. But yet you took the time to ask me to fill out a survey and come in for an interview, even though you knew that we may not agree with anything. So I felt I owed you that same respect to come here and have that conversation. You knew that we disagreed on a lot, yet you still took the time to send me a letter and say, fill out the survey. You didn't just say, oh, he's not like us, let's just put that away. So I didn't want to just put that away and say, well, they're not like me and I'm just not going to show up. You invited me here. I felt I owed you at least to show up and talk about those issues. The second issue is that, and I'm going to say this as politely to a third person as I can. There's a third person involved. There's three people running for lieutenant governor. I feel there is a person who truly does not feel the way you feel. Much more conservative than all of us. There's myself, who I'm much more of a Democrat than you probably think I am. And then there's Representative Ferry, who I have the highest regards for, who probably falls in line with more of your answers. The problem is that Representative Ferry is going to finish a distant third. And I have the utmost respect for Frank Ferry. And I don't even want this to leave the room if it doesn't have to, because I like Frank. So the question becomes, for every vote that Frank gets, it takes one away from me. And then the Democratic Party's worst nightmare comes true. We have a conservative who's about to be lieutenant governor, who believes in charter schools, who doesn't believe in any of the things that. So I'm probably more in line with your policies than one of my opponents. Not as in line with the other, but I think the other's going to have a very difficult time winning.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Definitely.
So one of the biggest things for, why we elect a lieutenant governor is because if for some reason the governor becomes unable to serve, you would then rise up to that office.
Right.
And one of the reasons why I personally think we should still have a lieutenant governor is because that person would have been elected by the full state, not just 38.
I agree.
138.
I agree.
You would then be in a position to veto things like abortion, anti-choice bills. Would you, if something happened in our very deeply conservative state house with a very, very, very deeply conservative anti-choice speaker, if something were to come out of that body that would restrict a woman's right to choose, and I understand where you're coming from, would you veto that? No, but let me just qualify this. Celinda Lake recently, are you familiar with Celinda Lake? Okay, they are a firm out of Washington. They did a survey of Rhode Island. And it was the first survey that's been done to put the finger on the pulse of how Rhode Islanders look at abortion as a whole. 83% of Rhode Islanders think that reproductive rights with access to contraception and abortion should be available. So knowing that's a really good surveyor.
Sure.
You say, I am pro-life. You find yourself in a position where you rise up to the governor's office, right? Because the person who wins the governorship can't serve. And a very conservative bill comes out of the State House to restrict women's right to choose. What are you going to do?
Very good question. And first let me say that I think the Lieutenant Governor's office is much more than just that. I think we can make a difference, but at the same time, that is a very important question. And I'd have to say that my honest answer in front of this group or any group is I don't know. But I can't. I see myself without question strongly considering vetoing it because I think I've shown that I've looked at myself when I was faced with So 8 years ago, if you asked me that question, I would have said no. Today, I've lived it. I don't know how many candidates have, but I've lived it. And I've realized that, wow, I'm personally pro-life, but I really am pro-choice. Because I told that person that I would respect it, that I would support them, that I would be with them, And so now, when I look at that law, that scenario is going to come into mind, and I'm going to say, if I don't veto this, that same person is not going to have that choice. And you know, I saw in her eyes that day that she needed that choice. So while I may be pro-life, I don't know if she should be be forced to not have that choice. So I would have to strongly consider that. I can't give you a commitment here because I always live by my commitments, but my position here today is a lot different than it was 8 years ago.
I appreciate it.
I'm sorry, I just have to question something. And I thank Eric for being my better half. He's not half, but in congratulating me.
Thank you.
However, your answer goes to, and that's why I had to cut it, goes to the very question of, we live in Rhode Island, Roger Williams State. Do you believe in the separation of church and state or not?
Yes, it is.
Then how can you
Good
personally?
question. Because I'm glad you brought that up. This has nothing to do with my faith.
Well, it does.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
If you would question whether you
No,
would
I am not
veto a
voting
bill.
for pro-choice because I'm a Catholic. Absolutely not. No offense against the Catholic Church, because I'm a practicing Catholic and I grew up a Catholic, and the Church and I are on different, same-sex marriage, I can go on and on the things that we disagree on. So no, absolutely, this has nothing to do with my faith. This has to do with my personal feeling of having 3 children and seeing a heartbeat at 2 months, and I don't think we really want to get into all that now.
But
the end result is that
personal.
when I was faced with it, head on, like other challenges, unlike other candidates, I was faced with it head on. And I realized, wow, I'm pro-choice. I would have answered it years ago.
You say you're pro-choice, but then you say, well, if the bill came to me, I would have to think about it.
I don't know if, because I want to give you an answer. The easy answer is this. No, but the easy answer is this. The easy answer is this. Yes, I feel I would veto it. And the reason why I would veto it is I've lived with it once. I realized that a woman should have the choice, and also that abortion should be safe and real. And if I make them illegal, they'll never be safe. So in reality, but I don't want to make that commitment to you and then go back on it. But my feeling right now is that if I had the facts in front of me, and went through it once, and I realized that young girl deserved that choice. In addition, if it was illegal, she probably would have found a way to get it done anyway, in an unsafe manner, and that would have destroyed me. So realizing all that, yes, I'd probably veto it, but I could never make that commitment to you right here because I don't know, I don't have that in front of me. I'm trying to be fair with you. It'll be very easy to say yes because that's what we all want to hear, and I think I would veto it, but I can't commit to it. You said, can you commit to that? If you ask me where I lean towards veto.
So yeah, Ed has a question.
I want to thank you very much. I want to echo Lisa's thanks to Eric. It took courage to come in here and face this den of liberal lions.
Not at all. We agree more than you think, and I respect you, Lisa. Absolutely not.
I am very grateful to you. I would like to give you a chance. You said that education is an important part of your campaign.
Yes, it is.
Can you tell us why?
Yes. Well, first, there's a few reasons. Number one, I'm a product of public education. My children are, my parents were. I don't like what's happening in public education today. I think the charter school movement is hindering public education. It is driving money out of public education into a system where students are chosen by lottery, where they don't have anyone to answer to. Well, the teacher, they have 12 to 1 teacher ratio. In public school is 27 to 1. And then when a child goes to charter school and then doesn't work out, and the child goes back to public school, the money doesn't flow back. So the end result is that if these charter schools and the programs they have are so wonderful, then let's get these programs within public schools. Let's keep the money where it belongs in our public school system. Second, I'm a big fan of filling the skills gap. I have some ideas on how to do that. And making sure that families have the opportunity to have their children, when they graduate from high school, post-high school, or college, have the opportunity to find jobs here and stay with their families here. And the best way to do that is a revamped and revitalized education system. From kindergarten up, we should be talking about vocations, we should be talking about a new educational era, and we should be making sure public education gets their money. And in addition, also our public colleges. I mean, we need to fund them much better than we are. We need to give people the opportunity to go to college. My son and I are handed with an amazing loan because he went to college. I mean, I wanted to help him. My parents helped me, but the world's a little bit different today. And so education will be a main component of my tenure as lieutenant governor.
would be hard to answer that question better than you did. That was excellent.
I
Sam
just
has a
think
follow-up.
as lieutenant governor, there isn't as many specified duties as a governor, as the treasurer, secretary of state. What would you like to have as your signature areas that you would like to work on that you think you could have an impact in if you were elected secretary?
Looking to have 4 signature areas. One is the economy. My goal is to put together a workforce development task force of educational leaders, labor leaders, and business leaders to function almost as a cabinet to the Lieutenant Governor's office and start working about how we can fill the skills gap and begin making infrastructure improvements. And this is the Reader's Digest version again. Second is to be the voice of small business. One of the things that the Lieutenant Governor does do is he or she sits as chair of the Small Business Council. Some great ideas come out of that council. I'd love to be an advocate for those ideas in the General Assembly, be looked to as the voice of small business. I'd love to be looked to as the voice of public education. Find a way that we can advocate for policies and programs and funding that really changes public education here in Rhode Island. And the fourth one is almost like a place people can turn to for services, for answers to their questions. As Secretary of State, we've done workshops for businesses, we've done Business Expo. We've been a place where people turn to when they're getting frustrated with state services, and we find answers for them. I'd love to take that to the Lieutenant Governor's office through, again, services and staffing, where a veteran can find out where they can get proper services from all the departments that are available to them, where a business can turn to get an answer to a question, almost like a customer service / constituent office of the state of Rhode Island. And I'd love those 4 things to really be the platform of the next 4 years.
So I have a question that I think is an important question. This relates to guns.
Yes.
So you say in your questionnaire that you are a strong supporter and advocate of Clinton's gun safety legislation. Do you support now I'm going to ask you about bills in Rhode Island. Do you support a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, or high capacity is defined as magazines with more than 10 rounds?
Yes, I do.
Chris's question.
Okay. Can you explain what your concerns are about allowing particular municipalities, especially in our state, to act separately on the minimum wage?
That was probably one of the more difficult questions, because I almost wanted to answer yes. But then I thought to myself that I really think that because the state's so small that we need this to be a statewide issue. And so what I meant by, what my feeling is that if we start allowing the town of Burrillville and the town of Situate and the city of Cranston to have their own minimum wages, we're so small that I'm just not sure how that works. Now, Providence obviously is an exception, but it's still one of our 39. And I just felt that we could better tackle that issue on a statewide level rather than the state denying it and then all of a sudden this little town somewhere can actually pass it. I was just very concerned about the economic impact of that. Our borders are too close. We're such a small state with so many cities and towns that are at a real, I guess, organizational problem with that more than anything else. I'd love for it to happen. I'm not sure if it works, and I'd rather us tackle it on a statewide issue.
So you would support a $15 an hour minimum wage?
I don't know. That's the first time I've heard of that number. So I don't know that. I can tell you that
The number that Providence
well, that's a
hotel
good
workers
point.
were
Good
looking
point.
for.
Very
And
good
it was
point.
the number that was just implemented in Seattle.
Yeah, I know that. So $15. I mean, again, to give you a gut, because I'm a very, when I answer something, I like to do all the research on it, maybe to a fault, but just how I work in the private sector. So $15. I'm not going to say no because I think it's going to work wonderful. I'd love to know how we can afford that, maybe how we can gradually get to it. If a bill was introduced tomorrow that said increase the minimum wage to $15, I'd have some reservations, exciting reservations, because I'd love to see it happen.
In Seattle, it's gradual.
Okay, so I just need, thank you, so I just need to see the bill. But, so $15 tomorrow, boy, I hate to
But
not say yes,
$15
because I'm pretty excited about it. but
$15 eventually you would support?
I think that I can support that, absolutely. I want to see how it works. I don't know, I mean, I need to see how it works. I need to know at what year do we get to 15 and how do we pay for that? And, I mean, 15 is a big jump. 15 is a very big jump, but we need to increase our minimum wage. We need to give someone who's working 40 hours a week a livable wage. And
I have a
Yeah, I'm
follow-up
sure.
question on something you said earlier, which relates to the handing out of IDs in high rises. So you go around the state and you have these events where you hand out IDs. And have any of these been sponsored by local politicians?
No, I don't go to all of them, so sponsored by local politicians. I'm going to say no, but I don't know. I mean, because again, we probably have over 100 this year, and I may have gone to a half a dozen. I have a staff that does that. I mean, I shouldn't be at every single board right here.
So,
But I don't know.
the reason I asked this question is that Senator Frank Lombardi, who I believe is a supporter of yours,
Yes, yes.
has said that he held events that he sponsored, and I believe he paid for food out of his campaign account, so it was campaign sponsored, held campaign events where IDs were handed out. And I guess a concern we have is that IDs being handed out at campaign events might favor a specific candidate. So that's a concern that we have.
I would,
You don't recollect this incident?
so that's a different question. And what I meant by that is that if a senator or representative called me in 2013, and I'm not saying this ever happened, and said, I'm going to my senior high-rise, and we're going to talk about the issues of the day and bills that I'm introducing, can you bring over your equipment and would like to provide free IDs? I guarantee I'd say yes. If a candidate called me today and said, I'm having a vote for John Doe event at the senior high-rise, and a pass out brochures, remind them, can you come with your, I'd say absolutely not. So there's two separate things. So would I go if an elected official invited us? Yes. At a campaign event? No. That is a serious conflict.
So what if the event is paid for out of campaign funds? So like the food is provided with campaign funds?
I mean, again, good point, but if someone asked me in 2013, I'd probably say, okay. I'm just being, because I wouldn't, let's put it this way, if Senator John Doe said, I'm having an event at the high-rise, and I know there's some of my constituents who need voter IDs, will you attend? I won't say, how are you paying for the pizza?
Okay.
Good, maybe I should, but I wouldn't, so I know I'd be there. But if he asked me in 2014, I know I'd say, what are you passing out? Is there any vote for John Doe paraphernalia? Are you encouraging people to vote September 9th? We can't go with that. So I guarantee that. I know that's how my office would handle that.
Okay.
I had a question, and I may be wrong, so you could correct me. Are you the candidate for lieutenant governor that said you wanted to see the governor and lieutenant governor run as a team?
Well, we all agreed to that, but yes, I did.
Okay, and I wonder if you were to look at the governor's race now, who you might see as a running mate.
Well, the way that I introduced it was this. So you'd have lieutenant governors run in a primary, and governors run in a primary. And then the day after the primary, the winner of the primary would then be coupled, and then they'd run the election. So the people would still vote in the primary for lieutenant governor. They'd be coupled after the primary. That happens in a few states. The idea is that I would never want a governor to sit back and say, I'm choosing this person as my lieutenant governor. I think that people should vote for lieutenant governor in the primary. The Democrats should decide who they want the lieutenant governor candidate to be, and that person would be coupled.
So I would presumably go and vote for a governor and a lieutenant governor,
Yes.
as I do now.
Yes.
Not as a blank and blank.
In the primary. So let's put it, so if what I envision was law right now, on September 9th, the ballot would look exactly the same. And let's say I and Angel Tavares won. In November, it'd say Tavares Mollis.
But that wouldn't change anything.
Oh, sure it would, because now what you have is a governor and lieutenant governor always from the same party.
Oh, got it, yeah.
See, and the reason why I did that is that I've been there for 8 years, and I was there the first 4, when Lieutenant Governor Liz Roberts told me she never saw the inside of the governor's office for 4 years when Dr. Cherry was there. That's amazing to me. I couldn't fathom that. He went away and didn't tell her. I mean, there's a trust factor there. You need to come from the same party. Also, there's one state that does that, and then the governor chooses a cabinet position for the lieutenant governor, so he or she has even more jurisdiction, responsibility, things to do as lieutenant governor. But I think the people need a voice. I don't like a governor choosing like the president does. I wouldn't like to see that.
Do we have any other questions? Chris has a question.
Okay, if there was a movement next year, or even later this year, to establish a state bank, and deposit our funds in there and then leverage it at a ratio of 2 to 1 to 10 to 1, they'll pay for infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. Would you support that or oppose it?
It's something I seriously look at with leaning towards support. I smiled because there's someone in the State House who has got Bob, he works for the governor, And he's got a whole proposal on that he ran by me about 3 or 4 years ago, and he's been coming to the office, and very, very distinct, unique proposal. So something that I thought had a lot of merit. I can't say I support it right after that, because there's so many details involved in it. But I was pretty.
But you're open to that idea?
Absolutely, I was very intrigued by it.
5 minutes.
Very intrigued.
We have 5 minutes, we have to wrap up. I just wanted to say as a member of the group that I appreciate coming in and being so honest with us. I mean, it's sort of, rewarding or uplifting to hear politicians come up and give you, hey, this is, I couldn't say this, but this is what I really believe and say it from the heart, and appreciate you coming in and sharing your ideas with us.
And I thank you for all you do also.